One deck I remember everyone tried running back then was what I called a Kanto Starter deck or the Tri-Starter deck. I don't think anyone actually called it a Tri-Starter deck. I think that was just me that called it that. But ultimately, what this deck consisted of was one thing: getting out the final evolutions of the Kanto Starter Pokemon. Who honestly wouldn't want to make a deck about them? They're so popular and everyone likes them. I'm not going to go over the individual abilities in this video. I already went over each one on their own. I will say, and I'll say it again in a later point, the most difficult thing about this deck was supporting all three of these Stage 2 Pokemon. For one reason or another, it's just really difficult to get all three of these out there or just have enough cards to support them, because you have a huge spread of basic Pokemon, evolution Pokemon, if you choose to use any of the evolutions, such as Wartortle, Ivysaur, and Charmeleon, not that there's any other option. And Pokemon trainer cards, the ones to support them. There's so many good ones in base set, but you can only have room for so many. This is just one of many variations how to run this deck. I don't know if there's an actual set version of it, but this is only using cards from the base set era and doing a very all-in version of it, which I'll mention it again. Starting with Pokemon, you have 3 Bulbasaurs, 3 Charmanders, 3 Squirtles. So at this point is where you have to make a crucial decision what you're going to do. A lot of decks ran 6 to 12 basic Pokemon, and then follow that up with evolutions for 15, 16 Pokemon, so you already have 9 right there. You could always do one more Bulbasaur, one more Charmander, and one more Squirtle, but that brings your count up to 12 already. Or you can go up to their Stage 1 evolution. Personally, I really didn't like these style decks because it was just so low in basic Pokemon, I had such a hard time grabbing them. So what I ended up doing instead is going for 3 Chanseys. But you might be thinking, what about the Ivysaur, Charmeleon, and Wartortle? What are you going to do about that? This deck heavily relies on Pokemon Breeder bridging that gap. And then from there on, 2 Venusaurs, 2 Charizards, and 2 Blastoise. So you have to put a lot of consideration your exact Pokemon layout, because are you going to heavily dependent on Pokemon Breeder, or are you going to include their Stage 1 evolutions? Do you feel comfortable with just 9 basic Pokemon and either one more of each, or just going down with Chanseys? You really have to put a lot of thought into that before proceeding forward on what you're going to do exactly. For trainer cards, we have the standard setup. By standard setup, I mean trainer cards you see all the time, but just in different various amounts. 3 Bills, 2 energy removals, 2 Gust of Winds, 2 Switches, 2 Professor Oaks, and then going more specific for this type of deck, 3 Pokemon Traders, which I think are very underlooked, 4 Pokemon Breeders, a big must, 2 Computer Searches, 3 Energy Retrievals, and finishing off with 2 Lasses. And then for energy cards, you can just go ahead and skip Fire Energy cards in this. You don't need them because of Charizard's Pokemon power of turning any energy card into a Fire Energy card. You can skip it completely. So you're looking at 8 Water Energy cards, 7 Grass Energy cards, and 2 Double Colorless Energy cards. When you ran this deck, typically what you want to do is have Squirtle up front if you can, Charmander in the back, and Bulbasaur also in the back. If you ran with Chansey, then have Chansey up front instead, and then these 3 in the back. The most important cards you want to get out as fast as possible, or as soon as possible: Pokemon Trader, Pokemon Breeder, and Computer Search, especially Pokemon Breeder. What you would end up doing is that, let's say you have a Blastoise in your hand, and you wanted to get a Charizard, so you use Pokemon Trader to trade Blastoise from your hand into your deck to grab a Charizard from your deck, and then you would use Pokemon Breeder to evolve Charmander to Stage 2 in 1 turn and to Charizard. There are some good cards missing that I don't have in this version, or in this setup at least, that you might want to consider, such as Item Finder. Item Finder, you discard 2 other cards from your hand in order to put a trainer card from your discard pile back into your hand. So that would be really useful because you only have 4 Pokemon Breeders, and if you run out all 4, or you lose all 4, or you lose any amount, you just don't get enough of them to power up your Pokemon into their final form, then you might use Item Finder to bring that back. In this particular build, I don't have that in here. This is more of an all or nothing kind of build. The other useful card will be Pokemon Center, just because you might be taking a lot of damage, or if you have Chansey up front. If you're not using Chansey, you're just going with a 4 of each basic Pokemon, then you might want to skip Pokemon Breeder. And the other card I've seen a lot of people use is Maintenance. I just never got maintenance. I mean, it's good. It's shuffle 2 other cards from your hand into your deck and draw 1 card. So it's draw power, but it's just you're shuffling things back in your deck and just shuffling such an annoyance. So maintenance is pretty good, because if you end up having something like Professor Oak in your hand and you want to use it, but you have 2 Pokemon breeders, then you could just maintenance the Pokemon breeders back in your deck, and then Professor Oaks, you don't lose them. Again, I don't have that in this specific build, because this is more of an all or nothing kind of build. It is a huge learning curve. It's just a very sharp learning curve to get this to work, but when it does, it's insane. But when it comes to how these 3 support each other, they don't really support each other as well as you think they would. If you don't have Chansey or Chansey up front, or even using Chansey, then Squirtle's going to be the best option to put up front, because you want to get that into Blastoise as soon as possible. And since Blastoise's Rain Dance allows you to drop energy cards on it like crazy while using up your turn's energy card, then it alone stands up for itself, so that's going to be your prime attacker. In the meantime, until you get Venusaur and Charizard out, you want to keep dumping grass energies if you can. You have to be wise about it, because your opponent can energy removal those. They want to be wise about doing that, because you want to throw down grass energy cards as often as you can, because of Venusaur's ability of energy transfer, be able to transfer a grass energy into Pokemon. You're going to transfer these to Charizard. You're not going to transfer into Blastoise, because Blastoise can't use it for anything except retreat costs, so you're sending these to Charizard. So really, what you're doing is using Blastoise up front as your main attacker and defender, if you want to call it that, while Venusaur is getting grass energy cards thrown down onto it to power its attack up, or to support another Venusaur, or to send the energy cards, green grass energy cards, over to Charizard, which is going to use its Pokemon Power Energy Burn to turn them into fire energy cards. It's pretty straightforward how you would run a Kanto Starter deck. The big problem with this deck, though, is the fact that you're trying to support 3 different Stage 2 Pokemon. You have a lot of cards, Pokemon Breeder, Pokemon Trader. You have a lot of cards that need to be thrown in this deck in order to support these 3. So that's why it's pretty tricky to get it to work. It would appear that 3 of these cards are too much. 2 Stage 2 Pokemon appears to be the golden number. 3 is really when you really struggle, because it's such a huge spread of how many of these cards you have, from their basic form all the way up to their final form. And also, as I mentioned, the support cards are going to be thrown in there. With the computer search and the Pokemon Breeder and the Pokemon Trader, you're stretched really thin on how fast you can get these out, and how devastating it is if you lose a Pokemon Breeder or Pokemon Trader. Special note, the 2 colorless energy cards are there mostly just for Charizard, because as I mentioned in the previous video, it turns each energy into a fire energy card, so it counts as 2 energy cards. But keep that in mind that energy retrieval cannot bring those back, because energy retrieval only targets 2 basic energy cards. Double colorless energy card specifically says that it is a special energy card, not a basic energy card.